Okay. Secondly, we will be muting you. You will be able to unmute yourself as needed if you are called upon to follow up on one of your questions. And then last, I would ask you to show your video only when you're called upon to ask a question or respond, as we can only show 5 people at one time. So you should really have your video muted most of the time. Okay, well, I'm glad that you are all here this evening. As I mentioned, I am Jane Harsher, First VP of New York State PTA. I'm also the Designated Officer for Field Support and your host for this evening's chat. I'd like to first introduce our president, Lori Zaman, who I believe is here. Lori? Is Lori on?
Yes. Do I have to unmute? I think I have to unmute her. Wait a minute. Do I have to unmute her?
I got it.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Hold on, it's just going to take me a second. Got it. She should be able to talk.
Okay.
Or not. Hold on. There. Lori,
hi, everyone.
Yeah.
Yes, I can hear you.
Hi, Lori.
Hi, Lori.
Hello. Welcome to tonight's chat. I'm so glad that we're doing this yet again. Last week, or 2 weeks ago now, was a huge success. So, again, send your questions in. Jane and Patty and Bonnie are doing a wonderful job. I can't wait to hear our tonight's talk on finances. So go for it, girls.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I would also like to introduce a few other people who were instrumental in making this chat come together and are supporting it tonight. First is Patty Frazier, our New York State PTA Treasurer. She's the Designated Officer for Leadership Development and will be our primary speaker for this chat since it's on finances.
Hi, everybody. Just wanted to say a quick hello from Western New York. It's a beautiful sunny day, finally. Not going to mention the 4-letter word snow that we had this past weekend, so it's a pleasure to be spreading the sunshine of PTA with you all tonight.
Great. Next, I'd like to introduce Bonnie Russell, past New York State PTA President, who is our New York State PTA Volunteer Development Mentor and the backup moderator and the tech manager guru for this event.
hi, everyone. We're looking forward to working with you tonight, so I'm going to be kind of looking at chat and trying to unmute you. So if you want to talk, they'll tell me your name, and I'll go ahead and I'll unmute you. Thank you.
Thanks, Bonnie. And then I'd also like to introduce Dana Welsh from our office staff. She's the State PTA Membership Insurance Manager, the person that you would go to if you have any questions about membership or insurance, so some of you may know her. Dana, welcome.
Hi, everyone. I know you can't see me because I'm behind the scenes doing the screen share, so I just wanted to say a quick hello, and I look forward to hearing the chat tonight. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. And then I would like to introduce Kyle Belakopitsky, our Executive Director. I think she was having trouble getting on, but is Kyle on now?
I think she's back on.
Kyle, are you there?
Yes, she's here.
Oh, she is? Okay.
Wait a minute, she's muted. She's unmuted. You're unmuted, Kyle. Go for it. Okay, she's remuted. Okay. All right, Kyle, try now. She should be unmuted. Okay, so we're going to come back to Kyle. She'll let us know when she can jump in.
Yeah.
Jane, we want to get...
Right. We probably will have some questions where Kyle will be able to contribute. And then we do have some other executive members on the call or that are planning to come in, and we'll connect you with those a little later on. Okay, so let me just review a few housekeeping rules. This chat pertains to PTA finances primarily. That's the focus of the evening. So if we don't have the answer for one of your questions, we will try to get back to you after the chat. I know Patty was active actually responding to a few very kind of specific questions that the chat.
Okay.
Thank you for that. We'll refer to questions in the order in which they were submitted generally to chat@nyspta.org, either prior to the chat or during the chat. So if you wish to submit a question to be answered tonight, we would prefer that you send it to chat@nyspta.org as opposed to using the chat box with the webinar. I will read the questions, and then I will pass them to someone to answer, primarily Patty, who will be in the spotlight tonight with the finance-type questions. But some other people may be involved. And as I said, we are limited as the number of people we can have on video, but if you are answering or contributing to a question, you will be able to show your video. Also, we will try to leave time at the end for people who are on by phone who may not be able to email the questions and take those verbally, if that can happen. And then if we have time at the end of the session, we will ask for suggestions for things, topics that you think we might cover in future state PTA chats. So I think that's it for the housekeeping rules, and I guess we will start with our first question. So this is from Olivia, and the question is, what kind of guidance is the state giving units for preparing their budgets for next year? Any general tips? That's for Patty.
Thank you for that great question, Olivia. Actually, we've had that question quite a bit. I'm just going to move my computer. Hopefully the audio is a little better. So we've had that question quite a bit, and so my best advice, and actually we have a budget and finance committee as part of New York State PTA, and we are meeting as a group tomorrow night, and that's going to be the first topic of our conversation, so that we can get a cross section of people sharing, what their feelings are about, how life is going to be in a few months. Are we going to be able to get back to some sense of normalcy? Will we be starting school? Those types of things. Will our communities be ready for PTA? All of those things I think are kind of a local decision, so I would encourage the executive committee to meet and kind of have that conversation and bring in other people. I am somewhat of an optimist when it comes to PTA funds. So, my number is around 20% of, a loss in revenue. I think a lot of people might tell me that I am being a little bit too optimistic, but so I highly recommend, again, Western New York, we are, if you're following the governor's, metrics for reopening, we're still behind, and we're not going to be reopening as compared to some regions that have been identified by the governor that are already reopening. So you may be in that community that's getting back to life as we knew it quicker. So again, I would say 20 to 25% is just a thought, and then, run that through the filter of what's happening in your own community.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next question is, how much is the PTA allowed to carry over from one budget year to the next?
A perennial and wonderful question. Thank you for asking it. Hey, Jennifer, and I think you're on the call with us, so if you want to jump in to follow up, feel free to let us know, and we can get you unmuted. So typically for any PTA, if there are funds left at the end of the year, again, if your income exceeded your expenses, then that is perfectly fine to bring that money over into the next year. Our guideline for PTA during a year is to kind of keep track of how much money you can project you're going to end with, and you really want to make sure that you are ending with just enough to carry you through your first couple of months of PTA until your first fundraiser. So that's our general guidance. So, and the reason why we offer that guidance is we really don't want to over fundraise. We are primarily an advocacy organization. We try to follow the 3-to-1 rule, where we have 3 programs to every one of our fundraisers. Those are our typical guidance. So what's happening now with PTA, obviously, is we've had a lot of cancellations of things, both good and bad, in the sense from the budget perspective. We've had to cut some expenses that we wouldn't normally do, field days, end of the year activities, but at the same time, some of us have lost major fundraisers that we would normally hold in May or June. So again, whatever your circumstances are, the idea is whatever money is left, you can carry that all into the next year and use it as you see fit. In other words, you can cancel fundraisers that you might have been thinking about for next year because you have extra funds, or you can add programs, and we would love that idea of adding more programs on for our families. I think that pretty much answers that question. The one thing that I wanted to point out is if you do have funds that you want to take over into the next year that have been designated already for something, and you're going to carry that over into next year, you have to make sure you just designate that on the budget. So in other words, if you had received a grant, or if you had received funds for a specific purpose, in other words, if you had raised money this year for the purpose, and you specifically said we were raising money to have a visiting author, then you have, that money is restricted for use as that in the next year.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to point out that on your screen, I think you should be able to see that we have a breakdown of the resource guide, which is online, and there are sections, an updated section on finance, as well as sections on insurance and membership and some other things that have fiscal ramifications. So do check those out. A lot of the questions that people have often are answered in the resource guide if we just take the time to look through it. Okay, so we had a number of questions about using, I'm not even sure how to pronounce this, Zelle, or I'm going to say Zelle, maybe it's Zelly, to issue payments as opposed to checks only, payments and reimbursements. But basically, using the checks.
So Zelle, the Cash App, Venmo, there's many different ways that people are using money now to transfer money. And I would suggest to anybody that was considering using this, because we are working on putting together official guidance on it, and we have worked with our insurance company on whether or not that they feel that these are appropriate. And we have been given the from their perspective that they felt it was okay for a PTA to explore using these types of things. I would just encourage everybody who's considering this type of transfer of funds that doesn't have the traditional paper trail of a check, that goes to 2 signatures, is to refer to the resource guide, section 5A on finance, and the guidance that we give about credit cards. So back in the day, that was really, can we switch to using credit cards and debit cards? Again, that as that has become more mainstream, we still offer the same guidance along with credit cards, debit cards, as we would with these new types of money transfer, is number one, to assess your unit and feel if you are really ready. And for lack of a better way of describing it, it's sort of like with your own children. When they turn 18 and they're going off into the world, they might be going to college. Are they really ready to handle a credit card? Are they going to be responsible with it? And that's sort of the same thing with your unit. You really have to look and almost measure the fiscal maturity of your unit. How many people will be involved with using these types of apps and other transfers of money? Is there a way to control it? Does everybody understand what they're doing with it? And so those are the things that I think are most important for an executive committee to work together to decide and to kind of talk about the good points, the bad points, and whether or not the unit is ready to take on these types of things. And then it's up to the treasurer, and again, with the support of the executive committee, once they take this action to the board for approval, is to make sure that they have all the safeguards and procedures in place to handle this. So again, when you request a check for a disbursement, there's a a paper that's filled out, a request form is filled out, I need a check for a certain amount, I'm requesting you write a check to make a payment for an invoice or for an order that's been placed, or a reimbursement to somebody who has put out money on behalf of PTA but has the receipts to back up that reimbursement. So with these cash applications, cash apps, that type of thing, you really need to have the same type of thing in place. How are you going to authorize the transfers? And then how are you going to keep a record of it so that if a cash transfer you wanted to do, I don't know if you use Zelle in October, but now your books are being audited the following July, how are you going to show the auditors exactly how this was approved and taken care of? So the idea, most importantly, is that you have the procedures in place to manage these types of things.
Okay. The next question is from NPEPTA, asking about when is the budget supposed to be voted on, and can it be voted by virtual meeting as long as the unit meets its quorum?
So there are two ways of working with your budget. So you can create your budget for the upcoming year before the close of this fiscal year. So again, before the close of June 30th. So if you were to create your budget for the 2021 year, you can go ahead and have that approved by your membership. But I would recommend that if you do that, that you also present it again just for information purposes at your first meeting so people can understand what your PTA is about. So if you do your 2021 budget before the end of the school year, again, you're exactly right. It should be created by the treasurer with the budget committee, passed on to the board for their approval, not approval of the budget, but approval to share the budget for adoption with the membership. So again, you want the board to look at it first so that they can make sure that all of the expenses that are needed to carry out the plans of work of the various chair people are on there so that the budget doesn't have to keep getting amended. Everything's set in place. You know exactly what expenses you're going to need for the most part in the upcoming year and how are you going to gain the income to support those expenses. So you can do that before the end of the fiscal year. If you don't choose to do that, and a lot of PTAs don't, you can, before the fiscal year closes, again, reach out to your memberships and ask for a contingent spending plan, a provisional spending plan of a certain amount of money that will carry the PTA through the months until their first scheduled meeting. So it could be a dollar amount, and it doesn't mean you have to spend the whole entire dollar amount, but it's just a dollar amount that will help. For instance, if you have a back-to-school event and you're obviously going to need funds for that, you can't spend them without them being approved. You do that by way of approving a spending plan. And again, that would be the same way. The executive committee should devise that figure, make sure the board is aware of it, and then ask the membership to approve it until the actual budget can be adopted at the first meeting of the year.
Okay. Okay, our next question is asking you to explain or comment on the process for doing an audit of your books and also the reason that you should not have family members involved in the same audit.
Great. Well, so the audit is something that is mandated by your bylaws, of course, and it is also, something that you need to do to support your insurance premium that covers us for loss of theft and fraud. So the requirements of the audit committee are a committee of a minimum of 3 members to review the books of the organization, of the association. The report of the audit committee is not due till the first meeting of the upcoming year, the upcoming school year. So even though we can start the budget, the audit process right away on July 1st, just keep in mind that it's not required to be done right away on July 1st. You have until the 2 weeks prior to the first meeting to have your report completed. So again, 2 options there. If you have the people in place and the way to share all the documents for an audit, you know, you can set up a Zoom meeting, and if you can share those and keep, or go to meeting or a start meeting like we're doing, and continually share all the documents and with a group, that can be very cumbersome. So what I would recommend is, at this moment in time, when the fiscal year closes, is to have your final bank account and a copy of your budget finalized with all of your actuals for the year, and provide those to your 3 selected audit committee members, almost to do like a pre-audit where they go ahead and reconcile your bank account statement and compare that final figure on your bank account statement with the final figure you are saying you should be at for your budget once you put all your actuals in, and kind of make sure that those numbers are in line with each other. They don't have to match to the penny, but they should be very, very close. And that's sort of a good way to say, yes, the books are in good shape, our money is where it's supposed to be. And so then if the books need to be passed to a new treasurer, that's fine to do, because the people that have been looking at the financial documents agree that the books have been kept properly.
Okay, thank you. So we have a question from Giovanna, who is in a new unit, and has a question about a new unit that does not have a lot of funds, so concerns what should they do if they think that they can't cover their insurance expenses or counsel expenses?
Okay, so Jane, I have to apologize. I just want to jump back on that last question. I did forget to cover the part about family members. So when you are selecting the audit committee, they are actually supposed to be appointed. Obviously, with anything that we're doing with our finances, we need to be as transparent as possible, so that when we are appointing the people to participate on the nominating committee, it's sort of like the smell test. I mean, obviously, if your books are being audited, you know, we aren't going to be appointing family members or other that people like that are that close to, or the other signatures on the account to audit the books. We really want impartial people to be reviewing the finances. So sorry about that. And now back to this question. So the number one thing to do if you feel your unit might be in fiscal stress is not to keep it a secret from your region. So I highly recommend that if you are a unit that has concerns, reach out now to your region director to kind of, or if you're working with an associate or an assistant director, depending upon which region you're from, reach out to those people, because their whole role is to help keep you in good standing. And if the things that keep you in good standing are becoming a constraint, work with them to find what solutions that they can help you with. We realize these are unusual times and these things are going to be happening. So the best thing that I can offer is to reach out for help from the people that are in place to help you, and that would be your region. And you can, if you aren't aware of who your region director is, there is a link to that on the New York State PTA website. You can go to contacts, and it will link you right there to all of our region directors.
Right. I think they also mentioned counsel fees, and certainly you would want to talk to your counsel, the council that you belong to, about and see what they can do to assist you. Okay, so we have a question. Oh, okay. The new questions coming in.
Yes, a lot of questions are coming in. Thank you for using it.
Older questions, so I just felt that. Okay, well, this is a little bit different. So this is from Davis PTA. Is it possible to roll over funds from fundraisers in the past year to next year?
Absolutely.
Use them as intended.
Yes. So just a quick note about PTA budgets for the year. They truly are budgets just for the year. As you know, we start the year off with 0 members. right? Each year we build our association. So each year we go out and seek members to join our PTA. And it's the same thing with our budget. Our budget should really start fresh every year. We really should not be in the business of rolling over large sums of money. I mean, a small amount, obviously, you know, sometimes we wind up with a surplus. That's fine. But that shouldn't be our normal practice. What we really should be doing is setting up, again, a review of the expenses that we plan for the year and how we are going to obtain the income to meet those expenses. So again, once we have our list of expenses of what we want to do for the year, what types of events we want to offer our family, what our wellness fairs, all those types of things, what are the costs going to be, and then we match our fundraising to that. So if we are in a position where we can be rolling over funds, then we can, you know, rethink our fundraisers that we might normally have done to meet those expenses because we have that money. And so we really want to be as close to almost zero at the end of the year, with the exception of the money that we need to carry us through the summer. So again, we don't want to be in a position where we're building funds for PTA. We really are a year-to-year association.
Okay, and I should ask, are there any follow-up questions to that? While we're on it, from Davis PTA? Okay. Okay, the next one is from Julia. Can we pay for a yearbook ad for our seniors?
Yes, you can, as long as it was an expense that was already approved on your budget. So if it was a budget line that you had already had when your budget was either adopted or at some point amended to include that, then yes, you may carry out that expense. Jane, would it be okay right now? I mentioned earlier our Budget and Finance Committee, and as I said, we're meeting tomorrow night, and I just wanted to say a quick hello to Grace Marie Rose, who is on our Budget and Finance Committee, if she wants to say a quick hello to our members. I think we have, I don't know, I think I can unmute her. I'm going to unmute you, Grace, if you want to say hi. Wait a minute, give me a second. Okay, you're unmuted. I feel like I'm unmuting well. All right, Grace, we're coming back to you. Okay, next question.
Anyone else? Oh, okay. Well, actually, they'll have a question on insurance, which is asking, when will people get their bills for insurance? And I actually know this one because we were just discussing it. They are in the mail right now.
In the email. In the email, yeah.
Yes, the email, right. That's right. We're getting a lot of snail mail right now, but they're an email. And so they were sent out, I believe, today. So you should be receiving it soon. And I even have a number. Should you not receive it, if in case you do not receive it, you should call AIM directly at 1-800-876-4044. So that we have a very, very concrete answer to.
Yes, and just so everyone's aware, your premium is staying the same. Your coverage is going to be increased over what it was last year, but your premium amount will stay the same. So again, it's $300 for your first building, $200 for each building after that you count in your bylaws, and $100 if you're a SEPSA or SEPTA.
Okay, great. So are there any other follow-up questions on that? Remember, you can unmute yourself if you want to follow up with something. Okay, well, maybe later. So we'll go on. Okay, so we come back to fundraisers. This is Hina asking, are there any suggestions on how to increase fundraising during a pandemic when past events or even the normal events of the future will not be possible?
So again, I really want to caution everybody that the fundraising that we do should be to be should support our expenses. So if we are having expenses, then we do need funds to obviously support them. But we should not be doing fundraising right now if we don't have anything really for that money to be used for. That being said, I do think that one of the things that we could be doing is certainly keeping an eye on the national PTA website. They offer quite a few, and if anybody's one of the grant winners from New York State that's on the call, they have been, really increasing the amount of grants that are available to units. And the application process, I've done it a couple times, I find is pretty simple to do and very easy to submit. So in lieu of fundraising, if you are doing a certain event, again, a wellness, STEM night, those types of things, check out National PTA's grants that they may be offering, so that could maybe take the pressure off your area, community where you live of doing fundraising. So that's certainly an option to talk about. And then many of us participate in I guess to use the buzzwords of the day, contactless fundraisers, box tops for education, that type of thing, Amazon Smiles, and then of course in our most recent email that went out to our members, we talked about our Help Our Schools app that you can use to sign on. Again, that's a contactless fundraiser that's again based on people similar to Amazon Smiles, where they purchase what they need through this particular system, so that, and then they would just gain funds back from that, from people's purchases. So please check, that can be checked out also on our state website.
Okay. Any other questions related to that? Follow-up? Okay. Again, you can unmute yourself to ask those questions if you would like. Okay, so we have a question related to excess funds. This is from Pamela, saying that since they have not spent any money since March and won't need for the rest of the year, can they use some of those funds to purchase something for the school? Voting for it, but purchasing something.
So I understand the question, and I would say by guidelines of your budget, if that expense is not already been approved, you would have to move it in a direction of having it approved. So you would have to do an amendment to your budget to account for that expenditure if you chose to go in that direction. And so again, we've sent out the guidance on how to hold a virtual meeting, and so we do encourage that. So the things that you would need to look for is, if you were choosing to do that, and I would encourage this to be an executive committee conversation first, and then consultation obviously with key board members as well. So when you're going to do the amendment to your budget, you would do it at what would be a general association meeting. If you can give them enough notice that you are doing an amendment, it's 10 days notice, then you just need a simple majority to amend your budget to account for this new expense. If you aren't able to give that much notice, you would have to have a 2/3 majority to approve that amendment to cover that expense. On the flip side, of course, we are always cautious about purchasing things for the school. Our recommended procedure to follow with that is, if you are choosing to do something that's going to be permanent at the school, we do recommend that the funds be donated to the school board for that specific purpose, so that the school board can approve that purchase and handle the purchase through the school district, so that the school district actually owns whatever it is that you're purchasing, so that they assume all of the upkeep and liability for it.
Okay, any follow-up for that? No? Okay. Well, then we have a number of questions related to the situation in which we find ourselves now and during this pandemic, with families that are in need and questions about, are there guidelines, or is it possible for PTAs to support or donate to families in need?
Also a common question right around this time. So it's very important for us to know that as a PTA unit with New York State PTA, we have been granted the status of a 501c3 organization. That is a tax-exempt organization for charitable purposes. And so we have a very specific mission, and it is in order to maintain our 501c3 status, we must follow our mission. Our mission is to make every child's potential a reality. So we have to make sure that when we are doing any of our activities, any event, any fundraiser, any speaker that we bring into a meeting, all of those things really should go through the filter of how does this help us meet our mission. So when it comes time to work with a very limited group of people, an individual or a family, unfortunately that takes us out of our charitable class, and so that kind of direct assistance is not permissible under our 501c3 guidelines. I want to make that clear that that's not a PTA guideline. That is a IRS guideline for us to maintain our 501c3 status. I don't want us to come across as not being a generous and warm and welcoming organization to everybody in our community, because we are. And so what we recommend is that we harness that power of who we are as PTA, the things that we've learned, the connections that we've made in our community, our organizational skills, to find other ways that we can get our community to band together to support a person or family or people in need.
Okay, other questions related to that? No, I would just add to that you know, as Patty just referenced, PTA is very good at organizing people and organizing volunteers. The fact that the PTA itself may not be able to donate to collections or for, you know, financial support for families in need doesn't mean that you can't spread information, inform your members, steer them in the direction where they can go to volunteer, to support people with their efforts, as well as donate money. So it's not that you have to be aloof from that, it's just the PTA itself cannot accept the money and then contribute it to something like that. But you can certainly facilitate people finding places where they can donate money or food or other kinds of supplies, and also offer their labor and support in that way. So I know that a lot of PTAs are very active in doing that and helping in that way. It just doesn't want to go through our budget. And I'll just point out that on your screen, you'll be seeing a list of COVID-19 resources on the website. This is something which has been up there for the past month and a half. And so there are resources for many different things, guidance for unit leaders. That's where you'll find out how to run a virtual meeting or how to do an election in that environment, but also the parent and family resources and things like that that provide some of this information if you're interested in doing this kind of support for families in your community in this time. So you definitely need to go. That is updated on a regular basis. So there's always something new there. Okay, the next question is, we're getting a lot of questions along similar lines, but it probably is worth looking at this again. So this question is from Amy, asking about, does the unit budget need to be amended to reflect that events that were budgeted for have been canceled and the money not used for those?
I would say at this time, no, it's not necessary, because we are coming to the end of our fiscal year as it is. So as long as you have your budget and then your actual figures of what you actually expended and had as income during the year, that will be able to be like your final annual report, that's all you need to do, because again, the audit and your final reconciliation will show how much money is left, that the the budget committee can use to build their new budget. But no, it's not necessary to amend for all of those things.
Okay, any further questions on that one? Okay, so then we have a request for you to explain PTA's position on gift cards.
Oh, okay.
Purchase gift cards.
So I will say that we are in the process of sharpening our guidance on this particular issue. Those of you that have been connected maybe to some conversations on Facebook through the PTA Leader Group, which I highly recommend everybody joining if you're using Facebook. It's moderated by National PTA, but again, great ideas are being shared there. Great people are bringing their concerns, and people are offering creative, but still within the guidelines of PTA solutions. So I think it's just one more avenue and outlet for you to learn more about what's happening with PTA. And obviously, the gift card topic has been quite interesting. Each state seems to have their own position on it, though a lot of states were offering guidance that connected the the ability not to purchase gift cards with the IRS. We're finding out that maybe some of that guidance has changed. So I will be perfectly honest, we are in the process of working with National PTA to come up with the correct guidance for everybody at this time. So going back to the earlier guidance on credit cards, the same sort of thing. Purchasing gift cards is like purchasing cash, or is like having cash. So again, if you are going to be purchasing gift cards, what would be your, paper trail for them, and why are you purchasing gift cards? I understand, again, it was a big question around staff appreciation, because normally, we have our community come together and provide a lunch for our teachers, or provide, some sort of meals or other things to show teachers our support, and we aren't able to do that, and the gift card seems like a logical thing to do. I guess I would just, again, continue to, if you could just hold off for a couple of days till we could get the guidance out to everybody. It will appear on this COVID page. We are really cautioning against the purchase of gift cards, just because we don't feel that there's enough control of where those gift cards are going and how they're being used. So at this time, we are cautioning against the purchase of them. But please feel free, if you have an individual situation that you want to talk over right now, please feel free to reach out to me through the chat, and I will respond back to you also with my personal contact of phone and my New York State email for treasurer, and be happy to talk it over with you on a one-to-one basis. I'm sorry, we were trying to get the information to have it for tonight. That was one of the big reasons why we wanted to do this tonight, and we just really weren't able to get everything we needed from National at this time.
Okay. Any further questions on that? So,
thank you. There's my email. Thank you, Kyle.
Okay. Okay, so I'm a little unsure. I'm not sure I exactly understand this question, but I think what's being asked is, can you pay for a music program for students if it's budgeted for, but not all the students are included? So I think this goes to basically budgeting for what the kinds of things you could budget for in terms of student participation.
The answer to that is yes. If that was part of your budget, and when it was presented to the general membership, they approved that budget, then that is a legitimate expense. Again, I would caution every PTA about not adding or asking your memberships to approve things that don't widely benefit your school. But again, even though the music program might only initially work with a smaller group of students, the long-term benefits of that could spread to the community if we are creating musicians, and we all know how important the arts are, and again, there can be some long-term benefits from it. So again, every unit is asked to assess those programs as part of their budget process, and if the membership decided that they wanted to approve that, then you are well within your rights to support that with the money to pay for it.
Okay, any further questions on that one? Okay, so then we have a good number of questions that are asking about things like the end-of-year financial review, audits, audits given the social distancing, which really, Patty, you've already addressed.
Right.
I would refer those people to the recording that will be on the website. And there are a few specific questions that we will look at and that, Patty or someone else might follow up with. But is there anything else that you would like to add on that point before we leave it, Patty? It seems to be it's obviously a very hot issue.
So we can still talk by telephone to people. So the treasurer, to get a reconciliation done, the treasurer can get the documents to 2 or 3 people that would normally reconcile your books every month, and you can do that, and then those people that are doing the reconciling can be together on the phone or and kind of talk out the process. I can't imagine anybody's bank statements at this time have a lot of entries, because I think we're all kind of in a holding pattern. But again, we still want to make sure that we know where the money is. It's most important that the executive committee, with the fiduciary responsibility of the organization, knows where the money is. So the reconciliations should continue, and there are, for lack of better words, we just need to be a little creative. Either we're scanning the documents that the reconcilers need, either through, a scanner that you might have as part of your printer, or I have been using, thanks to our president, Lori, who recommended this to me, this app called Genius Scan, which takes fabulous pictures of your documents, and they're very easy to scan then, either through text or an email. So again, there are ways to get the paperwork to people that is contactless. They can have a conversation by phone or like on a Zoom meeting thing or any of these other things that we're using to kind of just work together to reconcile, at least so we can say that we are not setting everything aside and just hoping in a couple of months when we come back that everything will be where it should be. So again, it's just a matter of us reaching out to each other, and I realize that we have a lot of extra things on our plate, but if we could take a few moments to reach out and find the people that can help reconcile and take the steps we need, I think in the long run we will all feel better.
Okay. Any follow-up to that, since we had a lot of interest in those issues tonight? Okay. Okay, and again, I'll just reiterate that Patty has addressed different aspects of this question throughout the hour. So if you listen to the video of the recording of it, which will be on the website in probably about a week, within a week, it will be up there. Then you will be able to find some of the answers also, as well as looking at those COVID resources. They're called COVID-19 resources, but they're not only about that. They're also about some of these typical end-of-the-year activities that have to be done despite the constraints that we're living under.
Jane, do we want to just take a few? I'm going to try and ask if Grace wanted to say hello again. Shoot, I just had her.
Here I am.
Grace, are you here?
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, Grace is here. So Grace is part of our Budget and Finance Committee. So I asked her to, sit in on the call. I asked the committee if they could make it. So go ahead, Grace. Say hi to us.
Hi. I just want to say a really quick hello. This is an awesome call. I'm the immediate past president of New York State PTA, and I am presently a member of the Budget and Finance Committee. So I'm really happy to be here with you this evening, and it's great to see all of the questions that are coming forward. And thank you to all of you who are PTA leaders and active in your community and doing great things on behalf of the children in your schools. So that's it for me.
Thanks, Grace.
Thank you. And while we're paused, I think we have a couple of other officers on the call still. I believe that Lucille Vitale is on, our Vice President and Bylaws Designated Officer. Is Lucille on? Want to say hi, Lucille?
I'm unmuting her. She's unmuted.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no, she got muted again. Who's in charge of this?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Oh, good. Hi, everyone. So glad you all could make it. I hope you're learning a lot, as I am. This is a wonderful, wonderful process that we're going through right now, and I'm sure you still might have some questions. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I'm glad that you're all here, and I hope you learn a lot. Stay safe.
Okay. Thanks, Lucille. And then I believe also that Helen Hoffman, our secretary, New York State PTA secretary and designated officer for membership, is on as well.
I unmuted her, so hopefully she can come on.
Helen, are you there?
I don't know why that doesn't work.
Maybe she's unmuting herself, and if you both do it.
Right, yeah.
So.
Sorry.
Well, we can come back and try to get Helen in. Okay. So one other question, and then I think we will perhaps take some questions. We'll have a few minutes left to take some questions from the listeners. This one is asking, can a high school unit ask other PTA units, I assume within the same district, to assist with a gift for the senior class? So can one PTA unit ask other units for contributions to a senior class gift?
Yes, but again, it goes back to the same planning. If the other units do not already have that on their budget, it would involve them having to make an amendment to allow for that expense. So you just have to give them some time to organize getting that amendment passed. But you can ask. But again, the membership would have to approve it.
Okay. Any follow-up to that one? No? Okay. Then I think what we can do is go to other questions from the floor, let's say. You can unmute yourself. So if you would like to ask a question, let's try not to talk over one another, but you could unmute yourself. Please identify who you are and then ask your question. So,
Kyle, if you're unmuted, will you come on and say hi?
Okay, maybe she's still muted.
Guys, for this portion, I'm going to unmute everybody, okay?
Oh, boy.
Well,
okay, we're ready.
See how it goes, because there seems to be some difficulties with unmuting. So I'm going to go ahead and do that.
Thanks, Bonnie. Yeah. Okay. So now, if you'd like to ask a question, please
jump in.
State your name and then ask your question.
Jane, it's Helen.
Oh, hi, Helen.
Helen.
I wanted to unmute myself before, but once everything got unmuted, I cleared myself up. So I want to thank everybody for coming on. This has been a really great presentation, and the information the questions were absolutely fantastic, and the information that Patty gave was 100% spot on, and I'm very happy to have joined everybody tonight. So good luck, everybody, and if you have questions, don't forget to give us, give us calls, email us, whatever. Thanks.
Yay. Thanks, Helen.
I actually have a question for Helen. Are you there, Helen, still?
Great.
Yes, someone had asked, what happens if a small unit doesn't make the 25-member cutoff for their year?
Okay. We are going to be, the team is going to be reaching out to help these people. If they are reaching their 25-member, please let their, and if it's because of this culvert, please contact your region, but also contact the state. And we will work with whatever unit needs be on this particular issue. But please reach out. We also have a list of people that we are going to be reaching out to. So, but it would be better if you reach out to us, because then we can help you right away.
Okay, great. Good advice. Thank you, Helen. Okay, is there another question?
Hi, this is Sarah from North Park PTA. Can you hear me?
Yes. You were one of our...
I may have missed it earlier, but I just wanted to follow up on the whole budget overall. I know we're also supposed to kind of even. However, given the circumstances, we just didn't have our expenses that we normally would have at the end of the year. So can we use those funds for next year, given the fact that we probably won't have as much fundraising at the beginning of the year, given the current situation?
Yes, you can carry over the money and use it to offset your expenses next year.
So would we, the money's also sitting in like a bank account, so would we put that, our budget's normally just income and expenses, would we put that on a line item on our budget? Like, okay, we're spending, the $3,000 of revenue that we didn't spend this year into next year as an income item?
Yes, and every PTA should have that line item on their budget, a line item that says carryover from last year. Again, that's just kind of answering the fact that we really aren't wanting to build up large reserves. So we should have that money available to use to bring into the next year.
Okay. And then, Art, I don't know if I missed this question or not, but do you expect there to be, I'm sure there's going to be like a huge drop in memberships and probably fundraising, being that we don't know what to expect if we're going back to the schools or not. Given the fall, do you, preparing a budget, is everybody maybe like saying 25-30% income less? Like how's everybody trying to prepare their budgets, I guess, next year?
So just really quickly, I'll just cover that again. We're really asking everybody to look at their communities based on your region, how fast, your life is getting back to normal versus others. But I think you're right on with 25 to 30%. But I will say this, that without really knowing all this was going to happen, you will be seeing an increased emphasis from New York State working with the regions to really help to grow our membership. So perfect timing for us and a big challenge, so that we really believe that during these times, the support that we as an association are giving our members, it's just one more piece that keeps everybody connected to their school. I think people will see the value in that, and we really are hoping that they respond with at least a commitment to membership next year. So I think, we're going to try to make a little bit of lemonade out of these lemons on that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we have time for maybe one last question. Is there one more question?
Jane, one more other thing I wanted to point out. This is an unusual time, and a lot of people are stepping up to do great things for our children and our youth in our communities. And one of the things that we can do as PTAs, and especially those of you that are talking about maybe having a little bit of extra funds, is I really strongly encourage everybody to look at the awards page for New York State PTA and the Honorary Life award that we can offer, which is really just an award that we give to somebody who says, you really embody the mission of PTA, the work that you're doing, whether you're the bus driver that's going around delivering food to children, your school board members that are taking the extra time to make sure that everything's in place for our students to have the continuity of learning. There's a lot of community members that are doing great things, and so for us as PTA to kind of give a thank you back, that's a great way to do it. So take a look at that, our awards page.
Yes, there are awards for outstanding community service, for family engagement, for outstanding volunteerism, and they're never as utilized as we would like them to be. So it's a really nice way of recognizing people who have really stood out and met the challenge, and also encouraging other people to do the same thing. Okay, it looks to me like we've kind of wound down, I think, and I'll just again urge people to, in a few days, by the end of next week, look on the website for the recording of this meeting if you happen to come in a little bit late. We did spend quite a bit of time on some key issues that seemed particularly pressing to people right now. So you'll want to hear all of the responses if you didn't get those initially. It is also closed captions, so that can be a help sometimes too if you had difficulty with your audio. So I'd like to thank Patty, who is really in the hot seat tonight, answering all these questions for us.
It's my pleasure.
Okay, and I know she's always happy to help out with individual questions from units and councils and regions. So feel free to first, if you have a question about finances, contact your region and your region treasurer, but then also to communicate with the state and send questions forward to Patty. I'd also like to thank Bonnie and Dana for helping us keeping this going and keeping things on track, muting and unmuting.
And I'd also like to just add, Jane, that if you guys have ideas for topics for upcoming ones, we're going to try to do this every 2, maybe every 3 weeks, depending on the month. And so we're open to what your topics are and what you would like us to cover. You can send that information to chat@nyspta.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. And, feel free to think outside the box. These are chats, so potentially we could have some of them that are more like sharing ideas among the participants and members of the governance team, so as opposed to more of the Q&A. So there are lots of possibilities. So if you have a great idea, please send it to us. You've got the address right there on the screen in front of you. So I think that's it. Again, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us tonight. And I hope you found out the things that you needed to find out. Visit our website, especially all the resources under the COVID area, because as we know, our status is changing from moment to moment in New York State as to what we can do and the possibilities for PTA in our own private lives. So we'll help you keep on track with that. So once again, thank you for attending tonight. I wish everybody good health, stay safe, and have a good evening.
Thanks, Jane. Thanks, Bonnie. Thanks, Dana. Thank you all.
Good night.
Good night.
Oh, so sweet. Stop recording.